I would tell them, you need to talk louder to be more yourself. And the next person would come up, oh, you need to talk quieter. A lot of times people will film a video and they're like, I'm gonna film one video and I'm gonna send it to like 25 people because I'm gonna save myself time. It won't work. We restructured Russell's big event and we increased the conversion rate by 38%. Which was crazy. There's 16 emotions you have can make people feel, and if you can make people feel those 16 things at those specific times, then they will buy. Before you start speaking, you make a face. And what I do is I go.
That was McCall Jones, and she took someone who was so awkward on video that nobody would buy from and 12x'd her click-through rate in just 4 calls. Today, we're talking about why being professional on camera is actually killing your sales and the counterintuitive coaching insight that changed everything and the exact framework that McCall uses with Russell Brunson. Let's go.
McCall, thanks so much for coming.
Thanks so much for having me.
So we are here in Charleston. It was just a great opportunity to be able to get together. And
Oh my gosh.
I'm excited to dive in and talk how you have been growing your business and the specifics of it.
Yeah.
But you have a couple different sides to your business. So let's talk about that first.
Yeah, so our business is called Charisma Hacking, and we have kind of 2 different arms. It's basically we help entrepreneurs build their businesses and sell more with video by being more charismatic. So the first side of our business, it's called Charisma Styles, and we show people how to be authentically them. So the entire premise of our business is charisma looks different for different people. And a lot of times people get an idea in their head of what charisma looks like. And if they don't look exactly like that, it can be very discouraging for them. And they're like, Stu McLaren is charismatic. I'm nothing like Stu, so I will never be successful, right? So we are able to kind of show them the natural parts of themselves that are so spectacular and charismatic already in real life that they're just missing when they go on video. So Charisma Styles does that. They're one of 54 different charisma style combinations. And once they know that, it unlocks like the real amazing part of them that comes very naturally to them. So it works very quickly. And then with the second part of our business, it uses charisma styles, but it's more sales focused. So we help them not only be more confident on video, but we actually help them sell more on video because they're able to lean into the things that attract people and then get them to do what they say. So it's been really fun it's evolved. It's evolved as people have come into our world and been like, oh my gosh, when I'm on video and people like me, they want to buy from me. So we've really been able to explore that as we've grown our business, which has been really cool.
How did you get into all this?
Oh my gosh, I love this story. So my sister-in-law, who's named Catherine Jones, Catherine, shout out. She's the best person on the planet. She really got into internet marketing and she was in the ClickFunnels world for several years. And she had told me about this guy named Russell Brunson, but I didn't know anything about him except that he was like this kind of dorky guy from Idaho. But I was like, okay, great. I love that she's into this. And I grew up as a performer. So I was at the time teaching voice lessons and acting lessons primarily to kids. It was called Voice Lesson Boot Camp. It was amazing. And Catherine got asked to speak at Russell's big event called Funnel Hacking Live. And this was like the Super Bowl for her. She was so unbelievably excited. She was speaking at a website builder conference. And we were like,
It's not like a normal website builder conference.
100%.
It's like a rock show. Yeah.
When she told us, we were so unbelievably excited. She was like, the tickets are $1,000. We were like, okay, amazing. But it was a big moment for her. And we believe that you got to be there in the big moments for people. So me and Tanner, my husband, decided to go and support her. So she's speaking at Funnel Hacking Live on the first day and we walk in and it's exactly what you said. It's like, there's fog machines and like huge faces on the wall. And there's all these people who like basically have tattoos of this ClickFunnels logo like on their bodies. And I'm like, something is happening here. This is crazy. And I went in before the conference started just because friends and family. And I happened to sit next to this woman who I like to make friends. So I was bonding with her and asking her what was going on. And she was really discouraged because she had just spent $25,000 on, which I'd never heard anybody spend that much money before, on working with these people to do her webinar. And I didn't know what a webinar was at the time, but she said, my webinar's not converting. And I knew one of the words in that sentence and it wasn't. And I was like, what does that mean? And she's like, well, people come on video or people come to this video where I'm trying to sell something and I'm so awkward that they don't buy anything. And I was like, okay, I'm literally helping very awkward teenagers be more themselves on stage. So I was like, okay, I think I can help her, but what am I supposed to do? Tap her on the shoulder and be like, hey, I think I can help you. Like, I know nothing about internet marketing. And Russell Brunson, who is a great friend of mine, but he gets on stage, the first speech, the very first day, and he says, if you have something that's going to change people's lives, it's your moral responsibility to give it to them. And I literally reached over to her, like, while he's still speaking, and I'm like, I think I can help you. And she was like, okay. So the next thing Russell said is, and the first time you do it for free. And I was like, and I think I'll do it for free. And she was like, okay, cool. So she really took a chance on me because I knew nothing, but I was like, I'll do it for free. I've never done this before, but I think I can help you be yourself. I didn't know what I was doing. But within 4 calls, we 12X'd her click-through rate on her Facebook ads, which means more people that saw the ad, they clicked the ad, which was a huge deal for her.
Yeah,
And
I want to pause right there for one
yes, yeah.
Hey, McCall's about to get into some really tactical stuff here, her actual framework. And I know that you may be watching this where you can't take notes. Maybe you're in the car, at the gym, or on a walk. Listen, totally fine. Everything she's sharing, I've put into a free resource kit that you can get just through the link in the description. So just stay with us, grab the notes when you can later on.
So you 12X, how? Like, what was the difference between before and after?
What she was doing, it's funny because we use the exact same tactics now in charisma hacking, but like I didn't know that they were tactics. I made her more her. And like we can go over the very specifics of that. The first things that I pointed out is like we looked at her videos and I just pointed out what was missing. Really.
What did you immediately notice was there?
So she's so playful in real life. Like she was playful, she was fun, all this stuff. And immediately, like one of the reasons why I knew I could help her is I was like, can I see it? Like, it's like, I think I can help you. Can I see the video? And where she was like talking to me and very dynamic in real life, she gets on video and she was like, welcome to this webinar. I'm going to teach you sales. And
Prim, proper, and professional.
Prim, proper, professional. And she took out everything that was electric about her in real life. It just, every single piece of it was missing. And I could tell that like there was somebody in her head that she had a picture of that she was trying to be like. It was like, I call it a toothpaste salesman now because it's like anytime you can hear this, but it was like this very serious version of that. It was almost like she was trying to model like a business podcast she had heard that was like, this is hardcore history with Brooke. Like it was this really interesting, so stiff, very monotone. There were no facial expressions. Like the difference was so apparent to me that I was like, oh, even though I had no idea what I was doing, I was like, this will probably be a pretty quick fix because if all I can do, what I was doing with all these kids is the thing that made me different that I was so proud of is every single lesson we did a before after video. Coming back to Brooke, like I had done these before after videos with these kids and I had seen the difference of even me just being behind the camera being like, this is gonna be amazing. And then like the confidence in these kids would change in seconds, you know? So it was this thing that I was really used to. So with Brooke, even though it was virtual, because I literally started my business January 30th, 2020. So like the world shut down and we were on Zoom, you know, but I knew that even if I was like on the video that she was doing with other people going like this, that I could make a difference, even if it was small. And that's what we did. Like she would do something and then I would basically voice lesson boot camp her. And I'd be like, okay, what if we tried this? And like, what if we did this? I just kind of tried to get to the emotion of it. I had no idea like what I was doing, but I was just like, oh.
You were just trying to bring out the best in her.
I was trying to make her feel confident in the person that she really was.
And a lot of it came, you said, because when you saw her in person, she was animated,
100%.
she was lively and full of life, but on the video, she was stiff and monotone, and it just wasn't exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it really was. It was all of a sudden she was herself. I didn't know what a conversion rate was. So when she's like, we 3 times my conversion rate, I was like, yeah, for sure. So she was just, you know, and it was in that moment when I realized like, oh, when people like you and they trust you and they see the real you, they're much more likely to buy from you too. And I was like, oh, I think this could be a business. Like, this is kind of crazy.
So Brooke was that first client.
Yeah.
And so at that point, you're working with her. Did you say you 12X?
12X'd the click-through rate and 3X'd the conversion rate. So it was in her ads and her webinar, which was insane.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it was essentially the same message in the video, it was just delivered differently.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy how, you know, the same message can be tweaked and changed differently?
Yeah.
You know, I remember back in college, I had a class, it was a marketing class, and we were to create presentations in front of the room.
Oh, cool.
And one of the things that I did was I created 2 presentations and delivered it the same way. The only difference was that I changed the soundtrack behind it. So as an example, I pulled up this picture of like this wet dog, and and then I had like this fun, like energetic music behind it. And then I had the same picture of the dog again, but then I had this slow, somber, sad music.
Yeah.
I didn't say anything different, but the feeling was totally different.
Yeah.
It was really interesting to just watch people's reactions, and it's the same thing that you're saying here. It's like, look, you can say the same thing, but how it gets delivered is really important, because if you're delivering in a slow, monotone, boring way, it's not going to be received, and you're going to have low click-throughs, low conversions. But inject some of that charisma, and all of a sudden, like, magic can happen. Yeah. So how did you go from Brooke to then, like, turning this into a business? And I know now you got the different charisma styles. Yeah. Kind of flesh it all out.
So that being the beginning of it, I started coaching people one-on-one, and I was getting these awesome results. And the other thing that I heard through learning business is they're like, oh man, you want to grow your impact, you want to grow your income, do a group program. So I did, and we'd put these people in a group program, and I would do exactly what I just said. I'd bring people up one-on-one, and I would tell them like, very intuitively, I'd be like, you need to talk louder to be more yourself. And the next person would come up, and I'd be like, oh, you need to talk quieter. But the problem was, in a group program where when I was working one-on-one with somebody, they could take those specific tactics and run with them. When I would coach individually in front of people that the group was there, I would say, you need to talk louder and you'll be more yourself. And everybody would go and implement the tactic.
That's not right for everybody.
No. So about a third of people would do it and it would work. A third of people would do it and nothing would change. And a third of people would do it and it would sabotage them. And they'd be like, this is terrible. What the heck? And it was always different people. So I went back to one-on-one coaching because I was like, oh man, this isn't working. It was about a year into my business. And my husband, who was doing just like an agency, he was kind of in the internet marketing world as well. I was in COVID, so his office was right next to mine. And he just happened to be listening to my coaching calls for like a couple different in a row. And he was like, why did you just do that? I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, the first person you said, you need to talk louder. The second person you said, you need to talk quieter. What was the difference? And I was like, oh, it's just like something I know. And he was like, or it's a pattern. And I was like, it's just something I know. So he listened to like 25 calls back to back. And he comes into me at the end of the week with a stack of notes. And he's like, there are patterns here. We need to look into this. And I was like, okay. So for 6 months, we had 1,000 data points of me charisma hacking and doing different tactics with different people. And for 6 months, we said, okay, if we just sit down and say, this specific person, how would I coach them to get a result in these 3 areas? Because at the time I called them the pillars of personality. I was like, oh, they're either fun, empathetic, or they're like in charge. And it was like, okay, when this person, when Russell Brunson, if I would need to train him to get a result on an ad, would I train him with Stu McLaren or would I train him with, Amy Porterfield? And it was like, oh, I'd probably train him with Stu McLaren. Okay, great. Now, if I was training him to do this, would I train him with this person or this person? We spent 6 months, like all day, every day at a whiteboard.
Analyzing people, you're analyzing like, who is charismatic and what are the characteristics, and then who is not, and then how can we find the style that would work best for who they are.
Well, and it really wasn't style at that point. It was just clusters. And the 2 things were equally important: what would work and what would sabotage them, because I already knew how to get those results very intuitively. And then after 6 months, we took these data points, and my husband, who is he's a data geek, he put it into what was called a K cluster analysis algorithm.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I didn't actually invent the charisma styles. It is based on data because we put it into this algorithm. And the way that a K cluster analysis algorithm works is they just show you the clusters of people. And what we knew is we're like, if we put all this data in and it just looks like a bunch of dots on a screen, then it's like nothing happened. But what happened is we put these data points in and it was like, okay, when it comes to getting somebody to pay attention to people, it went, there's 6 different ways to get somebody to pay attention to you, and people fit into one of those things.
That was before all the AI tools.
AI didn't exist.
Right. And then I just think, like, for somebody listening, to find patterns that can help your audience and clients and so forth would be so much easier today, because you could chuck all that data into AI, and it would be able to find that. I mean, you don't have to, I don't even know how to pronounce the words that you just said.
Yeah.
Like data cluster thing.
For sure.
Like, that's way beyond my, like, scope.
Hey, me too.
But today, like,
yeah.
And then once you've identified those patterns, now it becomes so much easier to be able to help people.
They know the exact tactics to use, because all of a sudden, if I say, oh, I need to train you like this person I've already gotten a result for, if you use those exact same tactics, you'll get that same result. And that's what's happened. Right. And the cool thing about charisma styles is because they're based on clusters, like once I know what group you fit into, the bigger those groups get, the more intelligent like the algorithm gets. So it's only continued to get better and cooler, which has been so fun. Russell Brunson, I don't know how familiar your audience is with Russell, but he's so great. He's so cool. So he really has. Yeah. So I see him at Funnel Hacking Live 2020. And then 4 months into my business, remember, Russell's the very first video I broke down in my Facebook group, and people started sending it to him. He reached out to me 4 months in and asked me to do a training for his high ticket program. He was like, can you come show people what you're doing? And I was like, yeah. And then I asked maybe the best question of my life, which was like, why? What exactly are you wanting me to do with these people? And he was like, I tell people to get on video all the time, and they won't unless they think that, they can do what I do. Basically, like that was the first thing of like, and I don't know how I do what I do.
Right.
I was like, okay. And between like Russell reaching out to me, and then he actually asked me to speak at that same conference the next year, which was crazy, but it was about 18 months because it was during COVID. And we created this Charisma Styles process. So it was this funnel that by the end of Everyday Charisma, it was $2.57 a view that we were making. The percentage of people who got on a friendship call that then bought our program, we knew every single view was worth $2.57 for us.
Wow. There's a couple things I want to unpack here.
Yeah.
One, you're going from these Facebook Lives, inviting people to opt in to get access to the vault, where you are breaking down all these other different personalities.
Yeah.
As part of that, you're then inviting them on to join a friendship call.
Yep.
And what's the promise of the friendship call?
So it's funny. I always wanted to make sure that it literally was just like, I want to bond with you and learn about your business. And at the beginning, I didn't mean for them to be sales calls.
So it was one-on-one.
One-on-one. Yep.
And I think this is really important too, because the other thing that I heard that I noticed was you were sending personalized videos to every person.
Yes.
And there's going to be some people watching and listening and think, I ain't doing that. That sounds like a lot of work. The flip side of that was a very valuable use of your time.
It's crazy. Personalized video messages are our superpower. Like anybody who comes into our programs, we tell them personalized video messages, and the tactic of that, if I can give your audience like a super secret hack, 2 things. First is the thumbnail, which what I mean by that is you take your phone out and before you start speaking, you make a face. And what I do is I go, or I put the phone really close to my face and I go, right? Because when it pops up into their DMs, they're going to see that. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is the first word you say is their name, right? So it'd be like, Stu, my friend, and then whatever you want to say, because they know that it's personalized to them. A lot of times people will film a video and they're like, I'm going to film one video and I'm going to send it to like 25 people because I'm going to save myself time. It won't work. Or it may work, but it won't work like this, right? So with those 2 things, and I didn't do that on purpose at the beginning either, but it was like, ooh, something's working here. The personalized outreach message has such a return on time investment that it's like disproportionate to what you think it will be. The reason why Russell hired us is he was doing an event called Selling Online. He did Selling Online 3 times without us first. And then we were just voxering back and forth. And I was like, I just taught my people the coolest thing. And he was like, can you come teach that to my people in Selling Online? And I was like, sure. I did a presentation in Selling Online and it was really fun. But I watched the event and then I sent him a Loom video after we did the event because he was doing this every month before he evergreened it. And I don't know where I got the audacity. I was like wearing my retainers in the morning and like my hair was all crazy. And I was like, okay, so this is what I think you should do. This is how I would maybe adjust your event. And I sent it to him and he was like, can you come back and let's redo parts of Selling Online? So we did. We restructured. It was kind of like the first day and half of day 2. Day 3 was perfect the first time he did it, and he kept that all the same. We increased the conversion rate by 38%, which was crazy.
It's interesting too because, like, as somebody who's done a ton of presentations online, in person, what I hear you saying is like for somebody in the early stages, it's really important for them to learn their style.
Yeah.
If you learn their style and lean into that more, you're going to get better results.
100%.
And the other side, it's like people who have been doing it for a long time, it's like small hinges swing big doors.
Yeah.
It's like, here's Russell. Russell and I grew up in this industry from
He's amazing.
2004. So
yeah.
he's been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
And for him, though, one of the things that I love and appreciate about him is his openness to just continuously learn. Like he's
100%.
He always puts the ego aside. And he's just like, well, if I can improve by bringing in McCall to help me like in this one area, awesome.
Yeah.
And 38% increase in conversions.
It's crazy.
That is bonkers.
It was over the course of like, it was the change that we made. It was over the course of like 3, but like when you look at, okay, 38%. Yeah. It was crazy.
It's a massive difference.
Yeah.
The sales message is not changing. It's just the delivery of that sales message is changing. And it's so cool to hear how, like, again, small hinges swing big doors. If you were to think about Russell or think about some of the clients, like, what are some of the tweaks that you're helping them make that are making a big difference to the bottom line?
Yeah, 100%. So there's 2 of them, and I'll try to do this as quickly as possible for like the more beginners and then the people doing sales. So what I would say with the more beginners, you don't even need to know your charisma styles to start to make a big difference. Remember, the very first thing is like find your voice and then learn your charisma styles, right? Because you need to know what makes you you, and then you match it up with the tactics. So what we have is called the charisma loop. Basically what that is there's 4 steps of it. The first one is your center. You need to know who you are when you're at your very best. Great question. So what I have people do is I say, I want you to describe the characteristics of you when you're at your very best. It's always best if you have a video that you can see it. So like a home video or like a Zoom call you did with your family where like 20 minutes in, your sister told you she was pregnant and you were like, what? This is crazy, right? Like when you are at your very most excited, what does that look like? Describe it. And if you can see it, it's even better. The next thing you want to do is you want to make a list as if you would use it as a checklist. So like fun, exciting, goofy. If you have very specific things you do where like, you're like, when I get excited, my eyebrows go up. This is crazy. The more specific you can be, the better. Physical, emotional, like at the beginning, because remember, you don't need to know the tactics to make it work first, right? So you just need to know the emotions and kind of like the essence of you. That's the first thing.
And it's taking it from like the subconscious and raising that awareness to the conscious mind.
Like,
people probably don't even realize, how they look and what they do.
100%.
And how people even around them are responding, with the different, like I try to tell coach my daughter on this because, she will say one thing, but her face will say something totally different. Like, girl, like, if you're really excited about it, tell your face about it.
Yep, 100%.
Sometimes it's just an unconscious confidence. You don't even know that you're doing that.
You're like, I'm so excited. Yeah, for sure.
Tell your face,
Yep.
But what I hear you saying is just raising your own awareness of like how you look in those amazing moments.
Yeah, and we call them a natural habitat videos. So like, if you don't know what this looks like, next time you feel a high intensity positive emotion, pull out your phone and just document it, right? So it's like, I told people like, if you get engaged, leave the fiance kneeling there and be like, I'm getting engaged, So you just want to be able to see it if possible. Like feeling it is the perfect first step, but if you can see it, it's even better. So that's your center. The next thing you want to do is equally important. We have to identify off center. So find a social media video that you're just not happy with. You don't have to know what's wrong with it. You just go, ugh, or like find a cringe moment that when you watch yourself, you hate it. Or even like a voicemail you left that you're like, oh, I hate my voice, right? Whatever. Because your intuition is telling you you're not in your charisma styles, right? So you find your center and you make a checklist. Then you just look at this off-center thing. And a lot of times what people have is they have these really negative emotions towards those videos, right? They're like, oh, if anybody sees this, I'll die, right? But what we do is we say like, remove the judgment, right? It's be curious, not judgmental, right? And it's looking, I think that's Ted Lasso, right? You look at it and you say, okay, I have a checklist of what makes me me. Now let's look at what's missing, right? So you look at what's off. If I say, I am goofy in real life, and then I look at this video, and in the video, I'm going like this. I go, oh, it's missing the goofy. What the heck? The next thing that's so important is then we talk about a trigger. We call it a loop because it goes center, off center, trigger, and then bridge, right? It goes like this. So once I identify what's missing, it's important to identify the trigger of what caused that. In Charisma Styles, we have something called a two-face, and it's TOO, because every single person in the world has been told they're too much something. So you are looking for the thing, whether it's too big, too small, too loud, too quiet, right? Too serious, too shy, too whatever. When you're looking at this off-center video, you're looking for the trigger that you believe caused that. So for example, if I'm goofy, and I'm missing the goofy, the trigger is most likely somebody has told me at some point, you're too goofy, right? Or you're too much in some way. And until I can identify that trigger, I'll never fix it. Because me just being like, oh, it's missing the goofy, let's try again. I will always be self-conscious about the goofy until I can identify that trigger that caused it. And the more specific, the better on every single one. So instead of being like, oh, I'm sure people have told me I'm too goofy in my life, I can look back and say like, oh man, 3 weeks ago when I was so happy in the grocery store and I was like, watermelons, and the person gave me a funny look, oh, dang it. Like that made me feel small. So I think of watermelon lady every time I go on video and I'm like, watermelons, you know what I mean? Whatever that is. So I go, okay, center, off center. Now I've identified the trigger. Once I've identified the trigger, now it's time to close the loop, and we call it a bridge. So it's from the off center to the center. And what you have to do is you have to look for evidence. You have to look for evidence that the trigger is not true. So we have what's called the 1-3-5 rule. So if you look at this and you say, okay, trigger, I believe somebody has told me that I'm too goofy, right? If you just go, no, I'm not, it won't work because your brain has evidence that that is true in your brain. You can only fight evidence with evidence. You can't fight it with nuh-uh. If a lawyer went into a courtroom and they were like, excuse me, nuh-uh, like they would never win, right? So we're like, okay, the courtroom of our brain and our subconscious, we say, okay, well, this person said I'm too goofy. What is a piece of evidence where somebody has celebrated that about me, right? And the 1-3-5 rule is if it hurt a little bit, you find one piece of evidence. If it hurt a little bit more, you find 3 pieces of evidence to fight it. And if it hurt a lot, you gotta find 5 pieces of evidence, right? And then in order to cross that bridge, once you've built it, you talk out loud. We talked about this a little bit last night about the emotion you want somebody to feel, but first you gotta recenter yourself. So you say like, oh my gosh, Shelby loved when I was goofy at Funnel Hacking Live, when I was kicking high kicks and doing all this stuff. Oh my gosh, it actually made her think that like I was smarter and she listened to me more and she saw herself in that. Like that was so cool. And then all of a sudden, because I've talked out loud about this before I film that next video, I recenter myself, right? So like all of your beginners, you don't need to know what your charisma styles are at the beginning. You just need to know what makes you you, what's missing, the thing that caused it. And then you got to find evidence that the thing that is making you not you is false, is actually not true.
So you talk about that for the beginners. What about for the advanced? You said there was something there.
Yeah, I'll try to do it as quickly as I can. We have a framework in our sales that we call it the Sales Presentation Bible because it's emotional non-negotiables. That's what it is. And in a sales presentation, and regardless of the length of the presentation, we have found there are so many amazing frameworks when it comes to sales presentations, so many different types of stories, and we love all of them. We say nothing is precious except for emotional non-negotiables. Every framework that you use must fit into these emotional non-negotiables. There's 16 emotions you have to hit at specific times in your presentation. They have deadlines. And if you can make people feel those 16 things at those specific times, then they will buy. And if they don't feel all of those emotions during those times, they won't buy. We say your emotion controls your charisma and your charisma controls other people's emotions. The more advanced you get, the more specific you are about the emotion, right? So at the beginning, when we're like, oh, you want somebody to feel excited, you should feel excited. And we're like, amazing. And that's totally the place to start. The more advanced you get, and this is what we did with Russell, it's like, oh, instead of saying like, excitement, go, we're like, oh, the very first emotion you have to make people feel is I'm in the right place. There's a lot of frameworks that you can use to make somebody feel like I'm in the right place. You don't actually have to say those words out loud, but it's like, do you have like an avatar call out in the first 3 seconds of your presentation? Or do you have like a meme that you say, do you ever feel like this? And they can see it and they're like, oh, I'm in the right place, right?
Safety connection.
Safety connection.
Yeah.
The next one is, this could be my missing piece. In the first 3 minutes, they have to feel like this could be my missing piece. So they go, I'm in the right place. And then they go, this could be my missing piece. So it's like, it's kind of this curiosity thing. You can do it with an origin story, but the origin story has to have specific elements to make them feel that. They can't think, if he did it, I could do it. It has to be specific of saying like, this could be my missing piece, which means something about the before of this situation I resonate with. The thing that we always tell people to say is that they were only missing one thing. And that one thing is the system you're about to give them, but you don't tell them what the system is yet, right? So it's like, whether you're telling an origin story, you're like, oh my gosh, all of a sudden, like I realized, whoa, I was only missing one thing. And everybody goes, what? What's the one thing, right? Or if it's a case study story, you're like, I was working with this person and they had all this before. And when I looked at them, I realized they were only missing one thing. And then you only tell them the results of it, right? And like I said, a lot of different story frameworks work in this, and you can do it with a lot of different presentations. But instead of saying, and that one thing was, because then they'll leave and they're like, oh, I got one thing. You go, they're only missing one thing. And then you say, fast forward to these results, and you tell the results, and they go, I'm in that before. I want those results. I want the one thing. The next thing is, I would be dumb to do anything else. And you just give examples of things they've tried before and failed, right? So you're like, they were missing this one thing, which is crazy because, they tried this, they tried this, they tried this, they tried this, whatever. I'm in the right place. This could be my missing piece. I would be dumb to do anything else. Oh, and I've never heard this before. So they all kind of compound. So I've never heard this before is when you reveal like the name of your system, right? Where they're like, I've never heard of like that thing. So now not only do they want the one thing, they know that there's a specific system for it. So like I said, there's 16 of them, so there's a lot, but it's like in just the intro, before you get to revealing your system, they have to want it, right? So there's a lot of different ways to get there, right? It's not saying like you have to have those specific copy things, right? Especially when we're working with these really advanced people, they're like, well, I already have a story, and it's not necessarily you need to tell a different one. You just need to make sure you include that detail in that one story to make sure they feel that thing. Russell has a framework called the Perfect Webinar. We love using it as like a kind of a frame. With each of those training sections, the first thing they have to think is no wonder it hasn't been working. So with each step, once again, they have to identify what they're currently doing that isn't working. If you're teaching weight loss, the first thing that we're going to talk about is protein. So often, like people come to this and they're like, the more hungry I am, the more weight that I'm going to lose. And that never works. Even if it's that simple, they go, no wonder it hasn't been working. I'm hungry all the time, right? The next thing they have to feel once they say, no wonder this hasn't been working, is there's a path, right? You don't have to reveal the tactics. In fact, we say don't go super, 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 super deep in your stuff, because then people not only will feel like I got this, but they'll be like, too tactical, like I may check out. They just have to see that there is a path. So if you say like, a lot of times people come to me and they think the more hungry they are, more likely they're to lose weight, right? The next thing of there's a path, you're like, but instead, we just give them these 3 sources of protein. And once they have 3 sources of protein, not only they're not hungry, but they start to lose weight. They're like, okay, so not only I don't have to be hungry all the time, but there is a path here, right? You don't even have to reveal what the 3 sources of protein are. Technically, the longer the event, the more we tell people like get into what those things are more and more and more, right? But if you were doing like a 3-second reel, right, you'd be like 3 sources of protein, like an egg, a this and a this. And they're like, okay, cool, right? Once they understand that, they have to think this will work for me. So then you give them an example, right? So you say, 3 sources of protein, Jimmy, who used to feel hungry all the time, once we gave him three sources of protein, like here's what happened. But the most important part of this is like, you have to talk about Jimmy's hesitations, right? Where like when Jimmy came in, he was like, oh, but I have to be hungry all the time. And then we showed him this protein. He's like, dude, if I eat that, I'm going to get fat. Right. And we're like, Jimmy, I promise you will not get fat. And he's like, listen, like I've tried diets before where they tell me to eat more and I gained weight. Like you're going to mess everything up that I've been working for. And people are listening to this and they're like, I feel that, Jimmy. Me and Jimmy are the same. Right. And it's like, but Jimmy, I promise you, if you try this, like it's going to work for you. It's going to work for you. It's going to be awesome. So Jimmy was hesitant and he was reluctant. And oh man, did it take everything in Jimmy's willpower to take this chance and to try this thing. But man, it worked for Jimmy, even though, Jimmy was diabetic or this, like Jimmy had all these things that should have made it not work for him, but it did, right? And then the final piece of like each of those secrets or each of those training sections, they go through and they're like, okay, man, no wonder this hasn't been working. And then they go, okay, there's a path. And then they go, okay, I think this will work for me. And the final thing is, I know too much, I can't go back. Right? Where like now, even if they don't move forward with your program, or even if they move forward and they still decide not to eat in this instance, they go, but I know that protein will make me full. And I know that protein makes people lose weight. So now I can choose to be hungry, but I know too much. I can't go back. Right? So, and you do that for each training section. Each portion of your sales presentation, the more intentional you are about that emotion, and we bring in your charisma styles with it, because it's like once we know the emotion, we know which tactic to lean into, right? Whether it's your attention tactics, your trust tactics, or authority tactics. Once you're specific about the emotion, it's a lot easier to make people feel that. So you know like kind of what to say and how to deliver it, because you know the emotion that you're trying to evoke in people. So you wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, like this is a happy thing. If it's tell your face, right? You're like, oh, if you don't want them to feel happy, I'm looking happy, right? And if you want them to feel excited, don't be like, and this is the most exciting thing on the planet. You know what I mean? It's like just the more intentional you are, the better. So all of these different emotional non-negotiables, if you can put them in your presentations, it's a really specific framework. And at the same time, it works regardless of the presentation framework that you're using, right? If you have a mentor who's like sales needs to be like this. The cool thing is there's a lot of different ways to get to those emotions, right? I obviously gave you examples, but like as long as you make them feel the emotions, it works. And if you're missing the emotions, it doesn't work.
As we wrap up, what final advice would you give for people when it comes to, feeling more confident and making more sales?
Yeah, people can feel the emotions, right? The main thing I would tell people is coming back to, your emotions control your charisma and your charisma controls other people's emotions. Really, I work in the currency of genuine emotion. That's what I do, right? So it's like the more genuine emotion you can feel, I absolutely love, Stu, how focused you are about actually caring about people, right? And like the cool thing is, yes, it's like a nice thing, but like I have concrete evidence that it actually does drive more sales, right? It's like that genuine emotion is something that actually does grow your business. It's not like there are some business owners who care and some who just make money. It's like the ones who care make more money, right? So it's like if all somebody did was say, I'm going to care, and then to actually add a charisma tactic onto that, and I'm going to talk about how I care before I film the video, it's like, automatically things will change for you, right? So if you're just starting out and you're like, man, I feel awkward on video, but I care about my people and I'm willing to talk out loud about how I care about the person that I'm talking to before I start the video, your video will automatically be better. And if you didn't change anything else, it's more likely, I can't guarantee you're going to make sales from anything, but it's much more likely to convert because people feel genuine emotions, right? And your currency that comes from genuine emotion actually turns into currency, right? So that's what I would say. I would say care and then talk about how you care and change your actual emotional state and then lean into it, right? Lean into it and then repeat. Repeat, because the more you learn about your people, the more you care, and the more you care, the more money you'll make.
Amazing, buddy. Thank you so much. Where can people go to connect with you?
Thanks so much. You can find me on Instagram, McCall Jones Official, so fun, and then charismahacking.com.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
That was McCall Jones. And if you've ever felt like you lose yourself the moment you go on camera, McCall just gave you the roadmap. And if this helped, hit subscribe because we've got new episodes coming every week. Now, if you want to connect with McCall, I put together a free resource kit with all of her info, today's show notes, and her framework for unlocking your on-screen presence. Just scan the QR code or grab the link in the description. And now next week, we got Alex Catoni. And one comment on one video changed everything for her. And now she's got 400,000 plus subscribers. We're talking about her exact YouTube strategy. You don't want to miss it. I'll see you next time.